everybody. Welcome to Anime Sickos. It's a podcast for geniuses and the only podcast where we take a look at the four pillars of modern misery: anime, gaming, posting, and jobs. I am Tom, an anime sicko.
I am Joe, an anime sicko.
Before we go any further, we got two patrons to thank. Our first is, once again, our incredible grift of having all of the guests that we have on, who we pay $75 to, then immediately pay us $5 a month. Thus, in a mere 15 months, we break even. The greatest financial minds of all time. It's Jeff Stormer, who did the Time Heist game for us.
Which is very, I mean this in a good way, a good dumb game. What a wonderful time.
So dumb. Jeff did it really well. He tailored it to our sense of humor, which is that Joyce Carol Oates was there all the time. And I got to yell boo at her because she's afraid of Halloween. And our next patron. So the wine that is spelled like this person's name, you'd think it's Moet, but it's actually Moet. I don't know what this person calls themselves, but it's Moet. I'm gonna say Moet, like the wine. Thank you, Moet.
Thank you for giving us dollars.
Alrighty, so that's out of the way. I love how, like, the only benefit you get from patronizing us, which you can do at animesickos.patreon.no, but you can do at patreon.com/animesickos. The only benefit you get is we read your name, which we do as though it's an awful chore.
To just sort of, like, get through it, because it's obviously not something we're doing for, technically it's for money, so it's a job.
Yeah, so once it's done, we immediately vocalize, thank God we don't have to do that stupid shit no more. It really grinded my gears to have done that. Anyway, this is going to be a classic Slam Dunk episode of all time, and you want to know why? It's because we got a guest. It's going to be called Shevvy from Crawfish Comic. Wait, I sort of like started on the end of that. They're going to be called Shevvy from Crawfish Comic, which, if you don't know, I'm going to explain what it is later, probably. Shevvy, hello.
Hi.
Hello.
So here's the deal about the Crawfish Comic.
So, like, 2 weeks ago, I didn't know about this.
I didn't either.
Yes, exactly. So a key element here is, like, the no lag time between us, like, absorbing something and then, like, about it. It was very quick. In fact, Tom was over at my house and yesterday, and there was a few times where he just, like, made me look at some comics I had already looked at, and I was like, yes, they're still good.
So the story is, we did an episode about Moby Dick, and then someone showed me the comic where the guy smashes the aquarium because he wants to free the fish. And then a whale says, I'm a whale, and even I think this is crazy. And I said to myself, this is the best thing I've ever seen. And then I looked at crawfishcomic.tumblr.com, and I said, I got a message to this person. Do you want to come on Anime Sickos? And then, like, in a truly no time amount of time, it's today.
So the funny thing is that you messaged me saying that, are you a depressed cartoonist? I had bought I on that very same day, I bought a new mic, new headphones, and Zoloft.
So yes, so I was right. So this is our thing. I don't know if and this is another thing that blows my mind. Shevvy has actually listened to Anime Sickos in the interim, which, like, what?
He's underselling it. Before we began,
It's a sign of respect.
Tom was getting praises sung about the audio drama, and he was, like, about to leave his body. It was a real day maker for him and me.
Like, honestly, if someone was like, on any given day, $5,000 if someone tells you your audio dramas were good, I'm like, bitch, what is even the question? It's every time. Tell me they're good.
Yeah, like, genuinely, I was blown away by them. I'm still going through, I've listened to this first Sicko Shock episode. I've listened to Fall of Modesty City, and then I'm currently on episode 3 of Sicko Shock 2.
Oh, that's good. What did you think about the joke where the guy's shoes don't fit after he takes a shit?
I was Jordy as a character like it just fascinates me. I need to know where this is going. What was I gonna say? I just find it funny that you when you saw my comics, you were like, "This is." I don't say this lightly. This is content.
I mean, they're really fun. Okay, you know what? Actually, this is actually what I thought initially when I saw the comics, and this is going to be the most complimentary thing I can say to any cartoonist. Well, the most complimentary thing I can say to any cartoonist is you are Akira Toriyama, and you came back to life. But the second most complimentary thing I can say to any cartoonist is that your comics, the first thing I thought of was Phil Elverum Dog Trouble comic, which we've talked about on the show before. Apparently you had not seen before.
I only saw it after you brought it up, and I looked at it and I was like, yeah, that's it. That's me.
I think we need to describe style a bit because, like, we need a visual information for what we're working with here and why I think the comics are so fucking funny. It's in the document, and before we even started, you said that you think it's fun to do things kind of poorly, and wow, big agree.
The ethos that I have with comics, I actually began them kind of in a bitter mindset, which I'm glad I've gotten rid of and actually just enjoyed making the comics. But when I started, webcomics were in a sad state, and they still are. But I find when it's too well drawn, it's like a really fancy wrapper, and you have bigger expectations for the candy itself, and then it underwhelms you. Like the candy is a joke. And if you have it look amazing, you're like, man, this is going to be a really good joke. It's not. You
know what actually I think is sort of counterintuitive is the really high money webcomics, and this is in like another universe. Like this is this is not at all like what you do or what anyone we like does, but like the big money webcomics, like the fucking penny arcades and such, aren't they like done where like they have like an asset library and they just sort of like shuffle the expressions on the guys? So like the to look good is itself a sign of like, we got the style down, it's locked down, no more decisions are going to be made about my art ever.
It's a solved equation.
Exactly. Whereas when you're drawing it bad, there's every panel. It's like, how bad? Like, because the range on the Crawfish Comic art goes.
Yes,
it's a pretty long range, and you can see like you do have the chops, which makes the fact that you choose to draw it shittily very much funnier.
I get known for a specific style. I have to change it. I find it very like one of my favorite jokes is just ones that don't work, like the ones that get the least amount of notes are my favorite. Because it's like a Norm Macdonald kind of thing where like when the joke fails, you want it to fail, and like you get joy out of it. What was I going to say? It's I love the idea of changing the style completely to like something horrendous, and people are like, "What? Did I follow this person? Why are they here?"
I mean, that's kind of like one of the things that we do stupid on purpose is we did an all sketches episode. The smart thing to do is if you do sketches, you pepper them into normal episodes. So we did an all sketches episode, and the tepid reaction that it got has fascinated us since.
We're like, oh, we can torture people with sketches.
Yeah, like we have like 9 sketch scripts in the can, and we're like, we could record all these and like do one every other episode for 18 weeks, or we could make an episode everyone fucking hates.
That sounds like every rapper's dream.
Yes, you get it. We just fucking were talking about how rappers have it figured out. Did you? Okay.
Yes,
I was. I looked at the playlist of all the rap skits that Josh Borman sent us, who's our previous guest, and I was devastated to see that the horrific sex skit De La Orgy from the De La Soul 3 Feet and High and Rising album wasn't on it, which is like. It's a track that I always sort of like block out of my mind because I'm like, there ain't no way that there's like a 2-minute sex skit in the middle of this stone cold classic, and then there is.
It's like a litmus test for insanity. I like it.
The one way you drew something specifically that has Tom and I really wagging our tails is the fucking. mousetrap one.
Oh
and
my god!
It's. I mean, I'll describe what it is, which is like a guy has a mouse on a leash, and he sees. I'm sorry. No,
That's your read on this?
No,
scenario?
I'm sorry. I'm going to restart. I missed that. A guy has like the stick and box type trap, and there's a rat about to go into it, and there's cheese. But the thing that makes it so wonderful is that their heads are drawn the same way. Look, the rat head and the guy's head are the same. It's so funny.
Copying and pasting something to look the exact same for another panel is like one of my favorite gags. I cannot stop myself from doing it.
It's so good. Like, there's the one where, like, what are you doing right now? What are you wearing? And it's like, I'm throwing darts at a picture of your face. And, like, again, it's the easiest thing in the world, but the picture of the face that the person is throwing darts at is the first panel. And I'm like, how did they get that picture? That's funny.
It's so simple, but it truly shatters the world and all the logic within it.
It's so good. I love it.
So do you ever address when people are confused or anything? Like, what element of response do you deal with? I know, for instance, one where people were confused, and one I was not confused, and then convinced myself I didn't get it.
Because how could people be confused by this unless you're misunderstanding it?
Correct. That's how your grandma made us poor. That's how your grandma made us rich. Like, it's basically, the comic is a big pile of money being pushed around, and and I was like, that's funny because, like, one person is giving all the money and one person is getting all the money, and then, like, all day I was like, but what if that's not it? What if there's something deeper?
In the comments, everyone's like, this is inexplicable. Like, what am I reading? Inexplicable. And it's like, what the fuck? In the past, someone said free money, and the other person said, fuck yes! And then that person giving got poor, and the person getting got rich. Like, what do you not fucking get?
I don't want it to come across as completely nonsense. I want there to be an internal logic that the audience feels like they're peering into and intruding in on. And it kind of... There is chaos in the mix, but it also established rule set that it follows.
Because if there wasn't that, it would just be like noise. Like, there wouldn't be anything to it. You can't be. I've discovered the genius way to say it. You can't subvert the expectations in a funny way if it is so chaotic that there are no expectations to be had.
There's always something that is like far too deeply thought out by intent in the comics. And it could be the most arbitrary or dumb detail, but the fact that I've kept track of it, left it there with the kind of like clues, it drives people insane. And I've noticed this all the time. Sometimes I would spend so little on a comic, and people like really, really think about it. I want to bring up the elephant comic because this one is probably the most popular. It's gotten so big that it turned into a cocoon and then became a butterfly and flew away, and it's not mine anymore.
I'm baffled by this because when you said that this one had a lot of discourse, I'm like, what is there to say other than like this comic owns? Because I'm gonna, if it's the one I think, I'm gonna describe it for the listeners at home.
Yes.
A boy with a propeller hat at the zoo is throwing rocks at the elephant. He says, "Why isn't it doing anything?" The elephant replies, "Because there is no answer greater than silence and no punishment greater than forgiveness." Bitch.
People.
There it is.
People got really, really pissed off at it. I got a person that like blocked me because of it.
Why?
So people really read into it. My impression of it, I almost didn't post it because I didn't think it was even that good. The idea was that there was a smart philosophical quote that was applied to the most like incorrect situation. Like, you're not supposed to use that here.
Yeah, this is stupid. This is a stupid situation.
Yeah, so the vitriol that arose from that was people talking about complacency in under abuse of power.
Oh my god. So like they're saying clearly this comic says that Trump is the kid and we're the elephant, and it's advocating just taking it. Seriously? Am I close?
Yeah, out of curiosity, I looked at some like Reddits that were talking about it, and they went to like, I don't have it right now, but they went to a really philosophical degree. Like they were citing like a bunch of, like actual philosophers and talking about it. What's funny though is that this was too much for some people, and somebody, I don't know who, reduced to just the first panel, took out the dialogue and just said "gay" like in a long in a long
It's
word.
really funny. That's pretty good.
Now that it has been processed like a sandwich, now it is ready for everybody to have. That is the one. That is a version that blew up, and everybody has that. Like has seen that version. It's funny. It's
That's pretty good.
And now it's not mine anymore. Like people like draw their characters on it, and I'm so glad I did not put my watermark on it. I don't want that audience.
You would have pretty much like willingly put an albatross on yourself if you had done that.
It's putting a red dot on my forehead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this one. I'm going to be resisting doing this the entire episode, which is I'm scrolling crawfishcomic.tumblr.com and be like, oh, this one's good. Can I describe it for the listeners? This one's called
go
Reporting
ahead.
for Duty. There's a airplane in the sky from war, and it drops a bomb with a skull on it, and the airplane says bye-bye. And when the bomb gets to the ground, it pops open, and there's a guy in there saluting, and he says, reporting for duty. And the other guy says, you're fired. And the first guy says, in a different font, do you know how fucking long it took to get in this egg? Oh, calling it an egg? Come on. You kidding me?
Also, he emerged saluting. That's a really good touch.
Yeah, there wasn't even any landing necessary. He was just ready immediately.
This is what you when you're like, maybe this will be a good segment for the podcast. So you talk about a comic that puzzled you, and I explain it. I'm like, nothing's puzzling. He took a long time getting in the egg, and he got fired for it. Like that sucks.
But as quickly as you've reached that conclusion, people like, well, a majority of like Tumblr responses is like that there's a huge population on Tumblr of people who catalog comics to respective characters and media that it belongs to. And no matter what comic I make, there is somehow a perfect comparison to be made. This one was apparently some character, like a Transformer character that turns to a bomb.
Really?
And and every comment, every reblog was saying, yeah, this is exactly like that. I'm like, okay, that's good.
Another one that I absolutely love, Joe and I both looked at this one a lot, is it's a surgeon and just another person who's not a surgeon. You can tell because they don't have that circle thing on their head that doctors have. They're on a date. They're drinking one of the milkshakes with 2 straws, and the doctor says, yeah, so your calf surgery is going well. And there's a huge spray of blood coming up from the bottom. God damn.
I get obsessed with very specific things as gags. There is no punchline. Like just recurring traits in a comic is the gag for me. One is doctors, dates, cigarettes, and recently fish. Like I find it funnier not just to obsess over these things, but to pretend that this is a shift in character and that this is kind of who I am now.
So with this, the Doctor comic, I read it as like it's POV. Like he's on a date doing surgery on me, and he's at the table. Like my feet are under the table.
Yeah,
like if that was the perspective. Is that how you imagined it? Or okay, cool. So I have a perfect brain.
Just bringing up the watermark in the Elephant comic one more time is that or the lack thereof is that another punchline for me is even crediting myself. I find it very funny to credit myself, or not credit myself, or have a watermark that is like half cropped so you don't even see it, or have
like you did the watermark wrong,
or it's blocked out by speech bubbles.
That's so good.
Oh, which comic has one where one of the speech bubbles just gets fucking legs? That.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God. The one, and that person's smoking, too. Smoking is so fucking funny.
Yes. We've talked about this extensively on the show, and it's just like, it's people who say, like, I saw someone posting online saying, like, we need to stop, like, saying smoking is cool. It's like, are you an idiot? It is objectively cool. Like, it's like, it is the coolest. Look at this person. The person that you drew who is smoking a cigarette and has otherwise no features. This person is cooler than every member of my family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So about this comic, the depths to which this comic has secrets and basically an ARG of its own, there is no end to it. You can always just keep uncovering, and as soon as you thought you found the bottom of it, there is just more to be found. That's all I'm going to say.
I mean, the bottom is that the speech bubble has feet and that they're touching the bottom of the ground. So
That's interpretation.
yeah, see, that's the other thing. That's how you know it's real art. Okay, so we got to get past just like, oh, here's another good one, because that's going to be the whole thing. I'm asking this just because I am curious. Like, is it like where did this all come from? Where did the Crawfish Comic concept, like, from where did it erupt? Like, did you just, is this your first time doing comics like this? Has it all just been for yourself before?
The first 15 or so were done not as a blog, just kind of things that I would draw from me and my friends to make them laugh. And I've tried to keep that ethos after I've publicized it to where if it doesn't make me laugh, I won't post it. I keep this
good test.
Yeah, and I keep this sort of test to any genre. I extend it to that, because if you're writing an emotional story, if you don't cry at something that you wrote that should make you sad, then how can you trust that other people will feel that way about it? Likewise, if it's funny, why am I not laughing? Like, it's not just it cannot be just another clocking in the shift and getting on with it.
Yeah.
If I haven't laughed, it's not done. I'd like to explain the process, because I think sometimes that can be more telling than particular explanations for each comic, or at least how they came to be. I always begin comics only with a half joke, or I just begin a comic not once I have a plan. I have something that sounds like a punchline, but there isn't a setup or anything. It just sounds funny to me. I have a list here of things that
show me the list.
So there is this gormless oaf whose boorish conduct stares a doleful look on my already haggard features. Here's another one. I'm not saying you should cannibalize him, because that would be against the law. I just had ashwagandha and now I want to kill someone.
This is
this is actually very much how Tom and I end up. Like, I don't think we set out with this intention, but I come up with a half chunk of dialogue or something, and I have nowhere to put it, and then Tom helps find a home or a larger scene for it. Internally, I call it the nugget. I'm like, I got to get the nugget. It's got to have.
It's the nugget. It's the nugget. You're right.
And once you have a nugget, like, how does it scale up?
Often these non sequiturs make no sense on their own. I have to build up the logic to justify its presence even being there. The entire world shifts to make that half joke belong somewhere. You know, there's a world where ashwagandha exists, and it makes people go crazy.
Kill you. Yeah. This is so fucking smart. I'm like nodding my head, and you can't see, listener, because it's a podcast, but I'm nodding my head intensely this whole time Chevvy's been talking. So one thing that has, we mentioned we're doing our sketch episode. One thing that has, I think, made this set of sketches way better than our first all sketches episode is because, that first one was the first time I really wrote a lot of sketches at once, and would you believe it? They're all insanely way too long. And this time, I sort of like, I have accidentally discovered what you just fucking said, which is all you need is the nugget, like the little piece of gold, and then you just like what is the cheapest infrastructure I can build around this thing that still stands up? And like, yeah, it's like we've been fucking talking about doing it shitty on purpose is so funny, because it's just like you just get it. It's exactly what it is. Like,
yeah. Let me read two more. Fuck off, you're fired. Also, this comic was made by Crawfish Comic.
Yes. Yes.
Some of these sentences, I know they're not that funny, but I might have autism because, I mean, not just for that reason, but I think I have autism, and there are certain phrases that repeat in my head, obsessively. Like
If that's an autism thing, I am in trouble because
I don't think it's not a defining symptom, but
I'm very eager to hear what's next because that's also how I operate. You just kick a thing around in the back of your head for a while.
Yeah, the repetitive idea or phrase, specifically with language, the phrases that kick around in my head the most are ones that you frequently see on television and in films. So things like, well, look who's the boss now. I love phrases like that because I can just put them anywhere and it does not matter the context. It does not matter.
There's one, I'm looking at one right now where the punchline is just, this bitch is so fake. And it's exactly that kind of line where it's like, it's nothing. Like this is not like a comedy line. This is just something that is said. Like people say that this bitch is so fake, but like
that's how the comic started. It was just that phrase.
Yes, it's so goddamn good.
And I had to make something around it.
This is what like the Dog Trouble comic did to me when I first saw it, which I know it's not your comic, but bear with me. But like I read that comic and I'm just like, oh, okay. So the next couple days in my life are gonna be, do you guys have dog trouble? The movie. That's gonna be the only thing I think about. And yeah, I'm a whale, and even I think this is crazy. Like that's been in there for a long fucking time. Boobs or fins, you decide. Fin. Like this like, why mainstream art is so bad? How come this shit isn't the what's on TV?
So it's funny you say that. I actually kind of feel a little bit bad whenever I take too much like presence on Tumblr, because there are people who put a lot of effort and time onto their work and art, and I do really appreciate it. I think Tumblr as well, just social media as a majority, it is pretty bad for letting everybody have a space. Just think of it this way: Tumblr's like layout is a treadmill. It's just a conveyor belt that is one line, and for just 1 second at least, your picture takes up the entire page, and that's real estate that somebody else could be taking. That pushed me to think through my comics just a little bit more, but not too much. Yeah, it cannot be too overthought. If I have a really successful comic, I have to make one that I know will flop.
That's so fucking smart.
That's interesting. So like planned duds, known duds.
Yeah, my favorite dud that nobody likes is the one about Bob Dylan with stick figures. And if you find that one,
so he's just saying the Wikipedia article. I love this.
Yeah, this is my favorite flop of a comic. So my favorite response was someone told me that their dad saw this and he hated it.
Well, this is an anti-dad comic for sure.
Yeah, you got to be real careful what you say about Bob Dylan around dads.
I don't have anything against Bob Dylan.
My main thing with Bob Dylan is that I think Bob Dylan impressions that are bad are like inherently funnier than like anything. Like,
do you know that little plastic whistle that has like a fan in it that you get at like the fair and it goes like, that's Bob Dylan. For the folks at home who aren't looking at this comic, there's stick figures, one of whom is saying the fucking Wikipedia for Bob Dylan with the fucking footnotes in it still. And then in the next panel, that person is upside down with blood coming out of their head, and everyone is saying hooray. And also there are random splotches of white in the background, which is great mostly, but that just has some white artifacts.
It's an infuriatingly immature response.
It's so good. I mean, no, but as a tactic, I completely understand it, because and this is something that we try to avoid by just never having anything go big, which is when something goes big, you have obviously there's a rush to like, oh my god, it's working, the number is getting big, and so you're like, I need to become addicted to this. This has to be the thing that I care about more than anything. So I'm just gonna fucking try to do that thing again forever. And then again, like, what makes art interesting, what makes in general and also your art interesting, is like we're starting from scratch every time. and there's always the maximum number of like decisions in the decision tree of the art. We're not starting with like, because this is Crawfish Comic, you can assume all this shit.
Honor existing lore.
Exactly. And I mean, even existing lore, if like I know what type of joke works, I mean, that's not like lore plot wise, but it's lore in the sense that like now there is a narrower slice of what the art could be. So, and you mentioned Norm Macdonald before, very apropos, because like, yeah, that sort of thing where it's like, in order to keep myself sharp and smart, I'm going to say some shit that everyone fucking hates because it's going to keep them guessing.
Yeah. Somebody brought up that memes are undergoing entropy as a concept. They proposed a simple question. Do you think memes are a sign of a dying society? Do you see memes as they currently are lasting for another 100 years? I don't know. They get more and more chaotic and self-referential to the point where just like a single phrase can make you laugh. Mm-hmm. At the same time, a counter to that argument is that people say they laugh at something that is a bit absurd and they think, oh, my sense of humor has gotten so bad that I'm laughing at this. And what they're laughing at is something that their grandma would find funny as well.
Yes. This is this is very related to how, like, when you were like, oh yeah, some people don't get the comics. I'm like, what's not to get? The get is that there's a funny picture and that there's funny words. Like, that's it. Like, that's the joke. Like, do you not, like, it's just that.
The other audience issue, which is to say this is a problem with people consuming the comics, is they just have very specific ideas of what a comic should do. And to your earlier point, where it's just like, if it's just like a nugget, I get to stand up with goofy infrastructure and that's all it is, and they're expecting, I don't know, something more, they're always going to be like, what are you doing?
Yeah, where's all the stuff I expect?
I think the 4-panel trope for webcomics has done a lot of damage to it because thousands, millions maybe, of great comics have been made in that format, but now that it's an expectation, it sometimes forces people to extend their joke to another panel. I think the lack of brevity is the number one killer for webcomics. They just have to like say more and more and more. I'd rather that it either confuses somebody and they move on, or that there's just enough puzzle pieces for you to like get it, or leave it ambiguous and keep thinking about it. I have to make it so that it drives people insane and they just keep thinking about it, because there has to be something that is sensible here. There has to be like, it makes too much sense and also nothing.
I know I'd said I wasn't going to do it again, but you saying that made me have to say this, which is there's this one Crawfish comic where someone is asking a guy in bed, after 4 Oscars and a Nobel Peace Prize, is there anything you have to say for your adoring fans? The guy in bed replies, well, just be yourself. And that's it. And I thought that was a great comic. And then I looked at it again, and the person asking that question is his own foot with a sock puppet on it, and his other foot is holding the microphone in his toes. And it's just like, oh my God. We're dealing with a high level being here. It's so good. Just like, yeah, to just like, this is happening, okay? Like, fucking deal with it. Like, it does you. You know what? Actually, this reminds me of one of the things that we talk about a lot that we're like, this is so stupid, is that nowadays everyone's talking about lore. Everything needs to have lore. You have to have lore on the wiki. You have to say, well, actually, if you look at the backstory, this guy has 100 gremlins in his inventory. So that tell you? And it's like, it just tells me fucking nothing. Who cares? This just like to just drop a view into a world beyond imagining and refuse to expand on it. Beautiful. It's like that David Lynch meme, talking about memes. That David Lynch meme where it's like, Eraserhead is my most spiritual film. Expand on that. No. Beautiful.
I love characters that look like they were belonging to a bigger story. In serious stories as well, like I enjoy that, like dramas or fictions, or just any fiction where you see a snippet or of some character's life and you have so many questions, and then it goes. That's it. I want my comics to work in 2 layers. One where it's funny, if you don't have to overthink anything. Like, it's funny just looking at it and thinking, like just your first initial impression is funny, but maybe there's details you can notice or something that you can glance closely at, and then another laugh arises.
That's it. You did it. Your intention has been executed upon. Shevvy, I got to ask you. It's something we ask all of our guests, and we're asking you now. And so I'm going to ask it right now using my asking voice. Mm-hmm. Are you an anime sicko?
I generally stay away from consumption. I don't enjoy it. It feels like something horrible that I'm doing to myself.
Well, it is.
Well, yeah. Where most people relax with a TV show, it feels like extraneous effort that I put into as another. It's like clocking in a shift just to watch fucking Black Mirror or something. I think this is because I give media my fullest attention, not by choice. I have to It takes a lot out of me energetically. So I don't consume a lot of media. Mm-hmm. Now to the question. For the most part, no, with two exceptions. One is Masaaki Yuasa and his movies. And two is Osamu Tezuka. He's given me a horrible disease, and I'm obsessed with his work. Mm-hmm. Osamu Tezuka inspires me because he has this world, again, with his own rules. And each character that he puts in his comics, they're like an actor. He has something called a star system where it's just if this character is evil in this story, that's only because the actor is playing that role. And then for the next story, who knows what he might be.
Oh wait, I think I've heard. Is it? But by the star system, does it mean that he just has X amount of character designs? He's just I want to draw this exact guy again in a later comic, but he's going to be a different guy, even though he looks exactly the same.
Yeah, but it's still genius, like Akira Toriyama would do.
Tezuka is the Astro Boy author, am I correct?
Yeah. What I love the most about his work is that it would look not out of place on DeviantArt. And I made this as the highest compliment because he has these obsessive themes, and sometimes, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it, they're like fetishes, but it's so beautiful. It's made me cry as well. It's so sincere. There very rarely is irony. There's maybe a bit of cheekiness in there, but very sincerely inspired by bad art, and I look at it all the time. It's almost one of my greatest obsessions. This is probably the media that I consume instead of a TV show. I just I go to DeviantArt or I go to Furfinity, and I just look up for art that is of the purest form, and you can probably see that inspiration in the comics themselves. When there's mistakes in the art, I think that brings it to life. When something is masterful and so perfectly detailed, there is not a single flaw in it. Sometimes I believe, at least for me, my eyes glance over it quicker. But for everybody, mistakes are immediately noticeable. And some people are mean about it, but I believe it brings it to life.
If I may cut in here.
Yeah.
I think it, and this is we've been talking about how, we want to do an episode where we talk about how much we are morally disgusted with the concept of AI art. And I think we're morally disgusted with it with the same reason it's like a mirror image of why bad art and hyper personal art is so good, which is when something is bad, bad in quotes, the technique is not there, or it's weird, or it's focused on a very niche theme that the author clearly is obsessed with. What you get as a reader or a viewer looking at that is I am connecting with another human being in a really deep way, because they are just putting their whole fucking soul out there. They are not hiding behind, the ability to be good at art. They're just I needed to draw this even though I can't do it really that good. And thus it feels so much more emotional, because just the fact that it exists is evidence that there was this huge passion straining against the limits of possibility. And people who are I can't wait for an AI TV show, I'm just I hate you. That's nothing. It's nothing. What even, why would you do it? There's nothing there.
Give me the slop.
Okay. How dare you use our phrase against us? The slop is Dragon Ball's the slop. It's
the
good.
slop is cool when we say it.
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. With the advent of AI art, I believe human flaws have more importance and like to a really deep degree. If you look in the bargain bin bottom barrel of DeviantArt, you're going to find like the reason why art really exists and why it should be made.
Yes.
Sonic.
Christian, like someone needed to draw a Christian Sonic, and like it's the same thing if like the comic doesn't explain itself, and you get a glimpse into another world. Like it's like there is someone out there who needed to draw a Christian Sonic, and clearly they're 13. So like what? It's like that life is so different from me, and yet we're both humans. It's like what? It's, yeah.
These artworks and their illuminated spotlight on the internet is frequently seen as a joke or laughed at or embarrassing, but the fact that it's so unabashed, I think I cannot put into words how deeply sincere these pieces and like how emotionally touched I am by looking at them. That's why I try and just imitate a tiny fragment of what they do. I won't say which pieces, but sometimes I just like look at a piece and just imitate it and then just put it in the comic.
Hell yeah. That's the best way to do it. This is all so true. So are you an anime sicko? I forgot if you answered the question or not.
There were two that you were okay with, right?
Oh, yeah.
With Osamu Tezuka, I am sickening with him. I'm afflicted. Again, it's that obsession. The fact that he is so obsessed with his own characters, it's infectious.
What should I read? I haven't read any of his stuff. What's your top recommendation?
It's hard to say.
Did I ask an impossible question here?
Yeah, it's a bit of an impossible question. I think for you, Joe, you might enjoy Metropolis the most. It's one of his old masterpieces, and it's quite dramatic and ambitious as well.
Looking it up now.
Hell yeah!
This is how you do a manga plot. This is a correct recommendation on their part. The story begins with a scientist, Dr. Yorkshire Bell, noting that dinosaurs once flourished and became extinct when they advanced beyond their ability to adapt to change. Giant mammals such as the saber-toothed tiger and the mammoth came and went the same way. Humans, Earth's current dominant life form, had one special asset, intelligence, enabling them to advance further than all creatures before them. Dr. Bell wondered if one day humans might advance beyond the point of no return and render themselves extinct. In the summer of 19XX. That's how you know it's good.
Oh my god. 19XDX. That's so funny, because even at that point, like, there's not that many 19 years left.
I want to bring up an example. The play Uber Roy was only performed twice in the author's lifetime. One was a rehearsal, and the other caused a riot because they hated it so much. If you search it up, you'll know why. Look up UBU ROI. 1896 was not ready for this. It was so controversial, it was outlawed. Several poets in the audience wrote harrowing recounts that I'm going to read now.
Gimme.
He enters the repertoire of high taste and haunts me. Here's another one. What more is possible? After us, the savage god. Another poet has said, Ubu exists. You will not be able to get rid of him. He will haunt you and perpetually force you to remember not only that he passed this way, but that he has arrived and he is here. So
what the fuck?
Yeah, so what is all this talking about? It's just a hysterically crude play with very poorly designed characters, a somewhat nonsensical script, and it's amazing. Like, I can see a bit of my spirit coming back in this. They basically, I believe, they saw entropy in comedy and were horrified at such a complacent century that they had back then.
What the hell happens in this play? I'm like, what the...
You gotta see it.
I got it. Well, it was only performed once.
You can find the scripts, and you can find, new plays and even a movie about it that imitates it.
I'm looking at the Wikipedia page, and there's lots of pictures. And normally when I look at a picture, I know what it is because I'm seeing it with my eyes. But every single one of these pictures is so baffling to me. that I can't understand what I could possibly be looking at.
Yeah.
Jerry's metaphor for the modern man. He's an anti-hero. Fat, ugly, vulgar, gluttonous, grandiose, dishonest, stupid, jejune, voracious, greedy, cruel, cowardly, and evil, who grew out of schoolboy legends about the imaginary life of a hated teacher, who had one point been a slave on a Turkish galley and another frozen in ice in Norway, and once more the king of Poland. This is just a confederacy of dunces.
That's just an entrepreneur.
Well, yeah, that too. So you think you think that the entropy of memes is Ubu Roy of the modern day?
In some way, I believe. His spirit, he's haunting us. He's haunting us.
I'm of two minds on this, because I what was said earlier, which is just like the way everything gets remixed and reused, you can like see this stuff sort of degrade. But at the same time, like when a SpongeBob meme is like really deep fried and looks like shit because it's been copy pasted several times and like it's got bad artifacting, that's also itself very fun. Although I guess when it's happening like legitimately and normally, like people aren't like making the conscious choice to make it like that. It just is.
I think also the fact that if there was a play, if you had to sit in a little room where you're basically a prisoner and people act out a deep fried SpongeBob meme in front of you with all that entails for like 2 hours, you would be like, I'm harrowed by this horrible shit. Ubu will walk in front of my eyes every time I go to bed for the rest of my life. I hate this guy.
Yeah. In a social setting, the way comedy is being used, there's only one problem I have with it, which is when it substitutes sincerity. I used to make like a lot of jokes via text on Tumblr when I post. I fucking love posting, by the way.
So you are an anime sicko.
You understand.
Yeah.
So you're making these posts. You're making these posts on text.
There's a lot of jokes in them, but then I've realized that when I say something sincere, people could reasonably doubt that it is sincere because I've said jokes in that exact same format.
Yes.
I've not said anything to differentiate my mode of speech. So I've tried to separate that where the comics are what they are, and when I speak, I'm completely myself for the most part. I believe that the lack of sincerity today and kind of what people call irony poisoning is a long-lasting scar from the cringe era of the internet, where what is cringe except being vulnerable and
it's like you showed weakness and someone was there to point that it was occurring and everyone went cringe, die.
Especially in a socially unacceptable way. If you break social rules, not anything serious, just social rules. And it's our modern version of gallows. People loved to go and see someone get thrown tomatoes at or guillotined.
This is why I think that us doing this podcast is the ultimate form of comedy, because it is. We're not doing any irony. We're just yammering.
We're just saving the world.
Yeah, I mean, basically, the fact that I made Sicko Shock 2 is the greatest thing anyone's ever done. And it did save the world.
Yeah, look at it now.
Yeah, this is everything going well. Yeah.
Yeah, imagine how bad it would have been before. Sicko mode, sicko mode, sicko mode. Sicko mode, sicko mode, sicko mode. Sicko mode, sicko mode, sicko mode. Sicko mode, sicko mode, sicko mode.
On the subject of entropy, I feel like I cannot talk about AI without imagining it is just like gray goo. Like it's just gray goo that it's going to fill every container of content ever, and it's just going to dilute sort of everything. And like to me, that represents a sort of entropy in the sense that like there will be more stuff than ever before, but it will never have been written by a person, and it'll all suck. And it's like that itself is also like entropy. It's like you have everything in front of you, and it doesn't matter because it's all garbage.
It means exactly what the plot of fucking Megalopolis or Metropolis, the Tezuka manga that you were just reading before. It's like, what if humans become too big for their Minneapolis? What if humans become too advanced and they ruin their own place as stewards of the world? Like, legitimately, that's what's so scary about when people are like, well, the AI, I hate it, but it's inevitable. I'm like, don't just keep resisting. Like, why have you given up already? Because, like, when you get into that world where there is gray goo just in every single place, like every place that could have AI,
that is a one-way change.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, and when that happens, like, it's not a human's world anymore. Like, not in a metaphorical way, but just like, how much of my time is going to be spent looking at and dealing with stuff that again comes from nothing. Like, I'm not crazy to think that, like, a big part of why you be an alive guy as a human being is to, like, engage with other human beings. I think that's pretty common as a belief, and just to willingly, like, remove that from people's lives, I think is like violence on a unthinkable scale.
I've been disappointed a little bit by people's reactions to it. I am depressed, yes, but nothing persuades me to give up ever. This is just in general. Imagine that all the justifiable reasoning has been given to me. Okay, like, your legs keep moving. Do you know what I mean? Like, the flowers are still blossoming. That's so generic, but you know what I mean.
It's true. I mean, motherfucker, it does look outside. It do be doing that. It's still right. See, that's
one element I want to say on the topic of entropy, because we're not talking about dead internet, but we basically are. Like, we're discussing a point in which just everything is just a dead web. Obviously, that does not fill me with hope, but the reason it does not make me hopeless specifically is there's probably some fun to be had in the ruins of the internet. Obviously, that's not as good as like a working a network that is in shit everywhere, but like, that is the thing that I keep coming back to, which is like, things are going to get really shitty and janky, which is going to allow perhaps a type of posting that's never happened before.
I agree. And also, I do want to say that part of, I think, why I was so immediately, like, over the moon with Crawfish Comics was it felt like in a internet that I guess, for whatever reason, the people on it are desperate to make it the dead internet. They're like, it's inevitable that AI will take over. It's like, why are you so happy about this? In an internet that seems like it's dead and dying, like, finding this comic felt like I was going back in time to when hope was possible. Because it's, where it's not on Instagram and TikTok. It's on, where you can find Crawfish Comic, on crawfishcomic.tumblr.com, and nowhere else.
Every website sucks.
Yes, there is no discovery now. There's only feeds. I mean, you spoke negatively of just like how Tumblr is a conveyor belt, and Tumblr is, of course, one of many feeds. Like, everything is just a trough that we get the slop in.
The reason why I don't actually have the problem with Tumblr is because I just post it and I close it. That's it.
That's so smart. Yes,
our use of Tumblr, like, we use, and I'm doing air quotes here, Tumblr, in the sense that just like when we put out an episode, I put a link to the episode there on Tumblr too. Like, so when I use it, like, the only thing I do is I go to tumblr.com/animesickos and I just look at our page so I can put a new thing on. And like, yeah, in that sense, it's like, this is not giving me any stress at all. But like, the thing about Tumblr does that the other, fucking sites don't do is that you can have, like, you can sort of piggyback off Tumblr to make a homepage. So like, crawfishcomic.tumblr.com is just a page that's got all the Crawfish comics, and you can go and look at them and go, oh my God, how many enemies does the middle friend have? Show your thinking. I love it.
That was a friend's idea. That was my friend Holly's idea. Thank you.
It's well, you can tell Holly that shit's so fucking funny.
Yeah.
All comics should have a worksheet at the end. Anyway, the point I'm saying is, like, I truly felt like I had gone back in time, complimentary version, where it's just like, okay, this is a standalone website that I got to via word of mouth. I didn't get this from the fucking feed. An algorithm didn't decide you might like this, because no algorithm would understand what to do with these fucking comics. And then on top of that, like, they have cultivated a sort of atmosphere of like, what if shit was always a little weird and off and wrong and not explained fully, and nothing ever carried over, and everything was just a little bit like got you a little bit off kilter. And I'm just like, well, what if the answer to those questions is I would fucking hoot and holler and slam the table for more is what I would fucking do.
Yeah, I just want to bring up a small detail. It's not relevant to anything, but it's one thing that I do as I fake mistakes on purpose in some of these to make it more memorable, just like what the DeviantArt art itself does that I was speaking about earlier, but also that I can give an incorrect date to a movie that came out, and someone tells me, wait, Coraline came out in 2009, not 2007. And I'm like,
no, it did.
Yeah, thank you.
No, it did.
Thank you for commenting. I appreciate that.
I mean, we had Branson Reese on, and one of his favorite bits of mine that my favorite bits anyone's ever done is he did a comic where sharks are smooth. And everyone was like, no, they're rough. And he's like, no, they're smooth. And it just went on forever. People kept trying to correct him. And it's
post the Wikipedia page, which has been edited with inspect element to be like, sharks are the smoothest animals on the planet.
People routinely took turns, like King Arthur pulling the sword out of the stone.
Yes, and that's a very good point, because you are seeing like 100 people try, and you're like, but when I pointed out, he's gonna say he's sorry.
Yeah, like I'm gonna be the one that gets through and convinces them. Like, there's a joke. I don't want to spoil it because we haven't recorded the sketch yet, but there's a joke about the dates not lining up in a sketch about time travel. We've gone back in time in previous sketches, but like we go back in time and two things are happening, and they are not even they're like 5 years apart, and I like that was on purpose. Like, it's very funny that they're wrong, that it couldn't possibly be that. And okay, this is another thing. I'm gonna get in trouble for saying this. I'm not gonna name any names, but The Share Zone used to be so fucking good, and one of the reasons it was so good is because of the mistakes that were intentionally put in. The spelling errors they'd always have a bunch of spelling errors, and it's very funny because, well, that it shouldn't be spelled like that. It's different. And then I'm not going to get into the drama, but apparently the entire account was taken over from the original creator by a nameless person who is not as good at it. And now, if you look at the Share Zone, the misspellings, there's way too many. Like, it's not funny anymore because it is very clearly like, I must misspell 5 things per image. And it reads
it's
as
tactical.
box checking.
Because if you do a nuclear strike on one word that brings the attention to it, right? And like, you can't just spell everything wrong, because then you're not emphasizing anything. When you spell stuff wrong and do things wrong in your comics, like, am I correct that it is another way to emphasize?
Somewhat. There's a bit of mistakes that I actually have not noticed, and I enjoy. I like it so much that I keep it. I feel that because there's a sincere energy that I have to retain with each comic. I can't be too aware of the audience. What helps me is when I make it just around friends, and I make it while friends are watching me, and they pitch in, they laugh at it. I get some feedback, and I take things less seriously. I'm reminded to.
Yes. It's not like I'm not making a great piece of art. I'm making some silly shit, which is, again, we've talked about this. This is a fucking common theme, which is like the way that you become someone who understands art is to realize that there's nothing belongs on a pedestal. Nothing is perfect because it was all made by people, and people are all fucked up weirdos, and so it's all just silly shit. It's all just people having fun,
Yeah, you brought up earlier that my comics look like they appeared from a different time, a long gone one of the internet. I have to disclose that yes, Rage comics did influence me. I read a lot of them when I was a kid. But
I can see that.
Even older than that, with the animations, my mom and I would watch Charlie Chaplin DVDs, and that comedy is in the animations as well.
the animations. How many are there? Because the only one I've seen is the car for sale one, where every time the guy touches a car, it falls apart immediately.
There's just 2. Yeah, this is a dartboard one where people began calling me an industry plant because that was my first big breakthrough.
Uh-huh.
And you can see like some flash animation in it.
Okay, that shit was so fucking good. Okay, for folks at home who didn't see that, someone's playing darts and it is animated with that Photoshop thing where you click the element and the box comes up around it that shows the coordinates. The person's doing their arm back and forth to throw the dart, but they throw it backwards by accident and it blows up, I think, a hot air balloon that a bunch of people are on. They hate that. So they run back to the house where the person's playing darts, furious, to kill them. They're going to throw a dart at that guy's head. They throw it backwards the same way. See, this is, again...
Story of Everest.
The story of Everest. Just what if something happened twice, the funniest thing in the universe. And also, the funniest thing in the universe, which we've talked about at length, is what if the idiot was right? Which is how you have to be an idiot to throw a dart backwards, and then no, that's actually what everyone does. Yes. So wait, okay, enough of that. I can't see these shit without going nuts over it. So that you got called an industry plan?
Yeah, an industry plan for this animation.
It was because of the success that came afterward.
I mean, it's funny as shit. When I saw them throw the fucking dart backwards again, my God, man. Shit. I can't believe it.
We're the anime sickos and we're here to say anime is bad in a war crime way.
The one encouraging message I just want to give out to people, if you were to take away anything, please draw poorly. Just make something bad. You have no idea what it will do for your health. If you're an artist right now and each piece feels like the last one before you die or something, you have no idea what good is going to do to your health. If you just lower your standards, you don't owe anybody good drawings. You don't owe anybody something that with anatomically correct details. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's all. Thank you.
Never been horny. Never been horny. Don't tell the paper that I ever got horny.
I really want to talk about this. This is a high point of inspiration dialogue-wise. English as She Is Spoke is the name of a phrase book from 1855 meant to translate between Portuguese and English. It's believed that the author didn't know English and had to translate using a Portuguese to French book and then a French to English book.
Oh, this is good. This is Google Translate from the past.
But someone had to really sweat it out.
Yeah. So I'm going to read a couple of the results. The regular English phrase, he's crawling, became, he go to 4 feet. Another one.
Dude, I'm crawling we got to tell Marquez that he go to 4 feet. Our buddy Marquez talked about, whatever. I'm getting ahead of myself. Sorry. Continue. This has struck me emotionally in a big way. You go to 4 feet.
Yeah. This lake looks full of fish. Let's have some fun fishing. Becomes, that pond, it seems me many multiplied of fishes. Let us amuse rather to the fishing.
It's like a whole paragraph.
I can listen to this shit all day.
I
won more.
I won more than $30,000. Becomes, I had gained 10 Louis.
See, that's a classic phrase. It's timeless. This is a book from 1855. Even today, I would like more than $30,000.
I won't even provide the original phrase for this one. Then he kicks for that I look. Sook here if I knew to tame Hicks.
What?
That sounds like they had a thing and they just scrambled the order of the words.
Was it talking about Bill Hicks at the end of there? What? Wait, could you say that last one again, just for my purposes, because I didn't really follow it.
Yeah, no worries. Then he kicks for that I look. Sook here if I knew to tame Hicks.
Sook here if I knew to tame Hicks.
It's entrancing because it feels like it kind of makes sense. It's like chaos mixed with structure, and it's again entropy just looking back at you. I kind of stopped talking about
if someone
entropy.
said that to me in life, I obviously would not understand, but I'd be like, oh, this is a smart person.
Yeah. Yes. God damn.
Mark Twain said, "Nobody can add to the absurdity of this book. Nobody can imitate it successfully. It is perfect."
So, you live in Australia, which is notably an island continent, and based on our understanding of island nations, is that there's a good chance that it turns its inhabitants into either toads or perverts. For instance, the Japanese become perverts because of the vending machines with the soiled panties, and then the English became toads because they just sit in a bog. So, like, Australia does have some weird look. Like, Vegemite is deranged, right?
It's a type of toad paste, is my understanding.
For Australia, I feel like all of that pervert energy has just gone into me and nobody else has it.
You are like the lightning pole at the top of a skyscraper. Catching all of the blasts of horny so Australia can continue to function.
I cannot elaborate.
Yeah, no, you're the Goku who everyone else is shooting the pervert energy into so that you can create a beautiful piece of art. This is how Ubu Roy was made. That you say that was French. I think someone must have written that on an island because this is pure island pervert vibes.
The only other thing I know about Australia is that Melbourne has the most streetcars of like anywhere, and I would like to smooch them all. Like I think streetcars are very cool.
Well, yeah. I don't have much to say about that.
Yeah, no, it's simply true.
Sicko mode, sicko mode, sicko mode. Sicko mode, sicko mode, sicko mode. Sicko mode, sicko mode, sicko mode. Sicko mode, sicko mode, sicko mode.
The comic Cow Tools by Gary Farside, for me, is what Dog Troubles by Phil Microphones is to you. There's, again, an inspiring amount of half logic. The thing that confused so many readers about the contents of it was that one of the tools looked like a saw, and they would assume that the other ones had some sort of logic to it. And it caused this horrible spiral of, angry letters and calls of people who were driven insane by thinking that there was more to it. It could not have been nonsense. It couldn't be. There had to be something. And then his response was that I thought it would be funny if, cow came up with tools and it looked dumb. Like,
yeah, like if a cow did make the tools, they probably look kind of shitty.
Cow Tools is such like an incredible cultural artifact.
I only found out about this within like the last 5 years, and it's so funny because like this is the type of thing that a lot of people know about and love to talk about. So I was like, I found out about this, and I was like, "Did you know about a cow?" And everyone's like, "Yeah, this is old news. Like, how do you not know about this?" And then like happening again and again and again to find out, I was completely unaware of this cultural phenomenon.
I think what makes it so special is that we came out in a time when it was possible for a comic that is so simply absurd to like again have like a bajillion million people reading it. It's such that like the inevitable group of people who are obsessed with overthinking and it's like I must discover all the lore for these tools was like it wasn't like 5 weirdos on the internet. It was like half of America, baby. Like I love that. I'm so glad that at least at one point that was possible to happen in the world.
all that pervert energy, all that uber roar, all that Phil Microphones was struck into that comic. And it's a North Star for me of what I could be.
And talk about like a phrase that just lives in your head. It's like cellar door, but better. Just cow tools. Like just the words cow tools is fun to say.
He drew something and everybody got pissed and like confused and they wrote letters. That's what cartooning is about.
Yeah.
I know I wasn't going to say another one, but I'm just going to read another fucking Crawfish Comic. Just let me have my fun. This clearly is a podcast. It's a podcast recording, folks. And someone says of a man, he wouldn't hurt a fly. To which he says, yeah, I only hurt humans. podcast host, shocked, says, "Did we hear him correctly? This guy hurts humans." To which he responds, "I didn't say other humans. What about the plural?" Okay, there's that guy at the gas station.
What I love about that is I was very happy with that one, and it made me laugh because there was no punchline, and I sometimes think of the audience while I'm making it just a little bit. I know I said I should kind of pretend that there is no one watching, but I love the idea of somebody reading it, waiting for the punchline, or like waiting for like something to click.
Yeah, where's the big like bam? Like, this is it.
Yeah, and I like elaborating just for the sake of it. There's a comic that I did that I have published, but there were like 2 more panels that I cut out of that person years later graduating and like, you know, marrying. Not for any joke or any punchline relevant to the previous.
Just for funds.
Yeah,
I think you should put it back in.
maybe.
That's so. I mean, the punchline of this one is hit. This is why it is so, to me, delicious. The punchline is, "Yeah, I only hurt humans," which is said in the first panel, and like the fact that like that, just like
It's like aliens very closely imitating how humans speak, but not exactly.
yeah, it's so good. It's like, "Yeah, I only hurt humans." Fuck. So good. It's interesting that you would say that you have a comic where the characters are aged up and we see into their life, because, well, you may not know about Phil Microphone's incredible comic Dog Trouble, in which someone calls a video store saying, "Do you guys have dog trouble?" And at the video store there is a
He's
million
up to his
dogs.
ass in dogs, man. Yeah.
And he asks the movie, is that there is a second Phil Microphones comic where an old man with a walker goes up to a gravestone and says, "I said, do you guys have dog trouble?" And a ghost rises from the grave, which reads "Video Store Guy," and he says, "The movie?"
Just fucking run it into the ground. Just, yes.
He killed the joke, literally.
Yeah.
It's you have to have the DBZ mindset. It's like you have to leave the crater.
You know what I think, actually what I think it is, and I wonder if you have this feeling when you're writing as well, because I have this in a big way. I'm not going to spoil Sicko Shock 2 for you because, well, I want it to be surprising, but there is something that happens at the end of Sicko Shock 2 where I was thinking about the audience, and the thing that I wanted to happen is for the listener to be going through it and sort of get a horrible feeling of like, wait a minute, are they gonna do this? And be like, no, they could possibly do that. And then like the more it goes on, it's like, wait a minute, they can't, like, they see like the skyscraper come up from the horizon, like, no, it can't possibly be there. That can't possibly be it. And then it's just like, fuck you, buddy. This is what it's always been. And it's just like, oh my God. Like, I want a joke where when the punchline is approaching, there's just like there's no, I want it to feel impossible. Like there's no way. And that's sort of what the Dog Trouble Redux does in miniature. It's like it's impossible to just say the joke again, like that. It can't possibly be just that, and then it is just that, and you're like, God damn it, he got me.
I think even when jokes are not complex, comedy in its current state is really complex. There are so many layers, and I think it's funner now to make a joke than it was 100 years ago, because now people have expectations, and then they expect a subversion, and then they expect a subversion to be subverted, and then you can at any point of those stop and play with that or engage with it or flip it around. There's more going on in the mind now when somebody looks at comedy, whereas in the past, just like a fart joke was all you needed. That was the bread and butter.
I mean, I was about to say, like, you know what you should do, because I just fucking talked about this in an earlier episode. You know what you should do is read Don Quixote. It's funny. But, like, Don Quixote really is just, like, a bunch of, like, very broad, dumb gags, one after the other for 900 pages. Yeah?
I watched your cast of that episode, and I'm going to read the book.
Ah! I'm so pleased. I hope you like it. You got to make sure you get a good English translation because some of the old ones are written in very dry prose.
The Edith Grossman translation is the one I'm going to take.
Cool. I did not read that one, but I know that is among the best. So you're going to have a great time. I think it is. And, we talk about how bad the internet is and meme entropy and all that. But, like, the fact is, I think people are... the average Twitter user has more joke particles enter their eyeballs per minute than a 14th century peasant did in a single week. The mere quantity of like joke that gets shot through the ether in a given second of modern time is like crazy high, which actually I think that must be why we keep posting. And I remember when my wife would always be like, why are you looking at Twitter on your phone when it makes you furious? I'm like, yeah, but sometimes there's a really good joke on there.
I think we fill our lives with consumption to kind of feel like time freezes a little bit, or at least we do feel a little bit immortal when we're being drowned with content. Yeah,
because if you didn't feel like that, it would feel really like you're like a big waste of the most precious coin you could ever have. your mortal life.
Your life.
Yeah. But I mean, if you're enjoying it, like, go at it.
You know what I enjoy is reading the incredible funny gags on crawfishcomic.tumblr.com.
We're the anime sickos, and we're here to say anime is bad in a war crimes way.
That's all the time we have for Anime Sickos with Shevvy from Crawfish Comic. I have sung the praises of Crawfish Comic at great length this episode, but I really do have to say that if you are a person who is a fan of comedy and of cartooning, like, you really owe it to yourself to read Crawfish Comic as soon as possible. Like, I'm not joking that these comics are like one of the most I've not gotten this excited about a piece of art in like a long time. All that shit you were saying about your process and your philosophy, it's just like, this is the thing that a genius would say. I'm so happy about this. I mean, I'm being hyperbolic, but like legitimately, like fucking, like, please listen. Like, if you like us, if you think our sense of humor is funny, like, you will fucking love Crawfish Comic. And I know that because I'm me and I like it. So, like, transitive property, it all fucking checks out. Just do it. You should be making fucking like Casey Green, this is fine dog money off of the guy with the bowler hat who says fuck yes to the offer of free money. That's my fucking thoughts. That out of the way, now I get to the outro proper, which is Shevvy from Crawfish Comic. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been great.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you can find me on Tumblr. It's just Crawfish Comic. I came up with that name like in 10 seconds. And I'm nowhere else. However, I will publish a book one day of this stuff.
Shit, really? Hell yeah, I'll buy that book.
Yeah, I don't know how books work, but I'll figure it out.
Yo, we got a homie who knows all about crowdfunding and fulfillment.
Yeah,
we can hook you up. That's no problem.
Thank you.
She is in America. I wonder if that's a problem. Anyway, probably a little one. Anywho, this has been so cool.
Yeah, I've been refraining from saying something like this because the train has kept going with the dialogue in this cast. But thank you so much, both of you. You're both incredibly talented and just real wonders of the internet. Thank you so much.
That's kind to say. We're actually just stupid, but like, it's just like hidden right.
Being stupid is so valuable. So many people take such effort to avoid looking stupid. They're afraid of it. They don't want to do it. But if you just do it, like, that shit's funny as hell.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny to be sometimes if you say some shit that's funny, some like funny words, that's just all you need. You can just say cow tools. Like, the cops aren't gonna get you. Cow tools. You at home, say it right now. Cow tools. Isn't that funny?
Cow tools.
Cow tools. Anyway, I've been Tom, an anime sicko.
I've been Joe, an anime sicko.
And I've been Shevvy, an anime sicko. Toodles.
Hell yeah. See ya. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to Anime Sickos. I've been Tom, a sicko. You can follow me on Twitter at TomHarrison19. Joe is also a sicko. You can follow him on Twitter at ShariaUncle. You can follow Anime Sickos on Twitter at Anime Sickos, or email us at animesickos@gmail.com.
please leave us a review or something. I don't know. Tell a friend. Anyway, until next time, bye.